Welcome back to the Palmcast. I'm Sean, and today I am joined with Andres and Mike Shog from Premier Online Marketing. This is going to be a special episode because, well, for those of you in multifamily that are deeply interested in how the search game has continued to evolve, especially on the organic side, well, today we're going to have kind of a special where we're going to take the podcast and actually do a walkthrough of a presentation that is absolutely packed with insights and some data points that you're not going to want to miss out on. So, as you may or may not know, SEO is changing more so now than it has probably in the last 20 plus years, and multifamily marketers really can't afford to get left behind. Yes, everybody's talking about AI. It is influencing very much how people search. Organic traffic patterns are shifting. Engagement benchmarks continue to evolve. So today, while we're doing that, we're jumping into the state of SEO multifamily with someone who knows the landscape inside and out. Andres Fernandez, well, you've seen him on the podcast before. You know he knows his stuff. Well, he's going to walk us through the findings, insights, and strategies from Palm's latest SEO research relative to multifamily. So whether you're managing websites, running campaigns, or shaping digital strategies in the multifamily industry, well, this is an episode and some information that you're not going to want to miss. So, Mike and Andres, welcome to the Palmcast. Well, I don't want to waste any more time. I'm going to hand this off to Andres, who's going to get us kicked off, and then we'll jump back in a little bit later, perhaps in and out through the presentation, but certainly at the end for a couple of follow-up questions. So, with that said, Andres, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. All right. So this presentation is split into two sections. It's basically some organic benchmarks, a case study that we did in the multifamily industry based on 815 multifamily communities. And we also have a section on the future of AI. So very interesting data that can help multifamily marketers make better decisions or gauge their own multifamily communities versus these benchmarks and help them get better results. So as I mentioned, 815 multifamily websites were analyzed in this study. So it's a large chunk of data, not one-offs or anything like that, and this can help you set goals for yourselves and for your multifamily communities. So let's jump right into it. First thing is the traffic share. Traffic share means what percentage of traffic is attributed to direct traffic, organic search, paid search, etc. So imagine there's a pie. What piece of the pie belongs to which channel? And number one, we have direct, and obviously direct means people typing in your URL in their in their web browser directly. But it also means unattributed traffic with all these cookies and all that disappearing and privacy browsers and all that. It's a lot harder to attribute traffic directly to a specific channel. So we, Google attributes it to direct at almost 30%. I'll just round it up 30%. And then followed by that is organic search. Among the 815 websites that we analyzed, 27% of the traffic came from organic traffic. So search engines like Bing, Google, Yahoo, etc. And then followed by paid search and display ads, which was debating putting them in the same cohort here, but they're very different because of the networks. And 19% for paid search, display ads, 13%, etc. So we're seeing social at almost 2%, and this is important because you can like based on 815 communities, now you can see like as a multifamily marketer, where do I want to spend most of my money? Do I like really push on an email campaign that's perhaps not gonna give me the best it's not going to be the best source of traffic, or do I want to put it into paid search where I might have more of a immediate ROI, or organic where it's going to take longer, but it's going to get me a big chunk of traffic in the you know in the in the near future. And also, one more thing, and Mike, maybe you can speak about this, is how the attribution works, and um, how the funnel or the customer's journey works. Like where sometimes a user might come in first from a paid search ad, but then they might return later from organic search, and then finally, once they make their decision, they go and get they just go directly to your site, um, on their browser to schedule a tour, or fill out an application, etc.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, users, when they're considering where to move their home, they're going to be looking at a lot of different options. I think the last number I saw is that an average of 7 different communities are shopped for consideration. So a lot of times, that first touch point that you're going to have with a customer might come through paid search, but a lot of times the closing of that traffic will be coming through organic or direct. So there is going to be a multi-touch user journey. It's not that people, 30% of everyone just wakes up at one point and is like, hey, I'm going to go directly to this particular website and submit an application. There are going to be a lot of different touch points throughout the user's journey. So obviously it's really important to know that what feeds direct is going to be a little bit of everything. It's going to be fed by paid. It's going to be fed by organic. It's going to be fed by social. Which is a little annoying because it is a big chunk of traffic that we don't always know exactly where it came from. But in terms of addressable channels, you can see organic, paid, display, all of those things will kind of feed into that.
Awesome. Next, we have the organic traffic trend for 2024. And this mirrors basically what we see in multifamily seasonality, where traffic starts to rise in March, and then it peaks in between May and July, and then it starts to slow down in August, September, and then we start heading into fall and winter. So it the lowest traffic is during those months of October, November, December. So across all 815 apartment communities, we saw this during 2024, and it goes hand in hand with the current market trends for multifamily. So we're pretty pleased to see that. Now in 2025, we're starting to see across all of our communities, we're starting to see a shift, and we see a little bit of return in August when it comes to traffic, but pretty much the same sort of trend. We also have some trends such as like return to office policies from big corporations. So there's been a little bit of more movement on the leasing demand, and a little bit of shrinking of the SEO runway for the prime months. This is for 2025, but the graphic that you're seeing is for 2024. What we tend to do on the SEO side for this is whenever we get an apartment community during the fall months, we tend to front load as much work as we can during the winter months, fall and winter months. So we set you up for success, and we set the stage so you're ready for the increase in traffic in March, but just get you in a really good position by May, so you get an influx of potential users to your site, and fill up those units as soon as possible. So during May, June, July, once we have like front loaded everything during fall and winter, we just do a sort of maintenance just to make sure that we monitor, we make sure that we constantly add content to your site via blogs or GBP posts or refresh your landing pages. But for the most part, all the heavy lifting has been done during the previous months, and so on.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
you?
multifamily seasonality kind of is what it is. I've been in this for I think 17 years now, and it's very predictably kind of followed this arc for a really long time. Obviously, COVID massively disrupted things. A lot of people moved. Now, a lot of those people are coming back. So you do see some of those slight fluctuations. But the most important thing to understand about this is your prime time to get as many leads and traffic as possible is going to be really from in that peak window. So everything that you can do to get your ducks in a row before that time starts is beneficial. Obviously, you're always going to be marketing. If you just opened a building and it happens to be May, obviously you want to do as much work as possible on the SEO front so you can capitalize on the high leasing months as much as possible. But things like cost per leads and leases tend to be higher in winter months because there's still the same amount of properties that are competing for less users and searchers. And obviously we can't create search volume. So it's really just a matter of identifying the pattern of traffic and figuring out how do we prepare ourselves for when we're going to get the vast majority of it and have our ducks in a row in advance of that.
It's one of the great things I think about seasonal businesses that maybe not all of them from a sales and marketing perspective appreciate it as much as they should. And that is you have a window that is pretty consistently repeated every single time during that season that gives you what you guys are talking about, which is this time to prepare, time to maybe revisit your strategy. But because it's predictable for the most part, unless without disruptions like what we had during the COVID period, you do have this carved out period of time where you really should, if you haven't in a long time, look at your strategy and then make sure that you have a plan going forward. And this is the time for people to be doing this in multifamilies right now as they're going into these winter months. So I don't want to, get the cart before the horse. I know there's a lot more to share, but is that one of the things that you guys end up emphasizing even with new clients as you talk to them, is like helping one understand what they've done previously, but then set themselves up for that time of year is always the time of year that you should be preparing for when the numbers change.
You always want to get as many things working in your favor in advance of the leasing season. I mean, you're going to get leases outside of that window. You're going to lease buildings all year, most of the time, especially in the Southwest. You'll have a little bit less of a moderate crash, but in places like Minnesota, where it's, 5 degrees outside, there are just going to be a lot fewer people moving. So you absolutely have to work with the season as much as possible. If you're a builder, try to have all of your product finished before the spring. And that would set you up for success. But oftentimes builder schedules are delayed and we'll get a property that's coming on board in August and they've really missed that prime time of the year. And it's just going to be less traffic until those people come next year. Because again, you can buy as much traffic as you want. You can optimize as many pages, but ultimately your business is going to be influenced by the seasonality. And if 2x the amount of people are searching for apartments in July than are in December, that's just something that you are going to have to understand and plan for.
Now, we got some juicy numbers when it comes to organic traffic benchmarks. And this is what a lot of multifamily marketers want to see. Like how do you compare your apartment community versus the national standard? And obviously, like this is not the national standard and we're basing this off of only 815 apartment communities, but I think that's a pretty big chunk of sample size that we can base it on. And also a caveat to this is that we're not splitting this in different cohorts of like population size. So this includes high population, mid, and low population communities. So the numbers might look, on average, if we section this for like let's say Longmont, Colorado, you might see smaller numbers because of this population size versus San Francisco, where there's a lot more leasing demand there. So And number one, we have average monthly website visits, so organic sessions at 1,003, just rounded up to 1,000. And I always say this during my calls: anything above 1,000 for website visits from organic traffic is excellent. And sometimes we see 3,200 for high population areas or high demand areas, and that is just like, you know, phenomenal across the board to get that much traffic to your site. But a lot of people just don't have the averages, the benchmarks to compare themselves against. But another thing is bounce rate, and this is an old Google Analytics metric. Now Google measures it as engagement rate, but you can still look at bounce rate. And bounce rate means how many people go to your site, they don't perform any actions, and they just leave your site and go back to the search results or go back to another website. So we found that 24% of the visits become, they just bounce back to the search results, or they leave the website without performing any action. And again, this will change based on population size, but I would say between, even if the benchmark is 24% for B2C, I would say between 40 and 60% bounce rate. It's still a good range to stay between. But obviously for organic, we have a fewer or less bounce rate than in other channels. So that does change a little. And the other two are engagement metrics. Again, average time spent on the website. For organic, we have 4 minutes and 11 seconds. That means that the user stayed on your site for that time frame on average, and 3.5 pages visited for pages browsed for each each website visit. So they might go to your homepage and then go to your floor plans to check availability, and they might go to the gallery to check your amenities and unit photos, and then go to the contact page to contact you or schedule a tour, etc. And this helps, this helps multifamily marketers compare their websites performance with a more higher sample size, and plan accordingly. So if your website average time is like a minute and a half or only 1.5 pages per visit, then it might be, you might have a pop-up banner that's annoying, or some issues with your user experience or your UI, and like it might ruin the experience. And so users might tend to leave faster, or in other cases, just don't have available units. And when people see that, they leave. So, which is very common in multifamily. All right, now we get into some demographic data, and we are not able to pull this from all 815 communities because it's a setting that it has to be activated through analytics. So not every property has this enabled. But on average, from 837,000 website visits, we saw that the age group that represented the most traffic is the 18 to 34 age group, which equals 52% of the traffic. Now, followed by 35 and 44. But I wanted to say that while the renter cohort still skews to like the younger audience, we still have to serve, first time movers questions. So this cohort of 18 to 34 might be first time movers. So our apartment community can perhaps have more FAQs or blog posts or JVP posts that can answer questions for that audience, instead of just taking for granted that they're they've already moved before to a unit and stuff like that. this really helps marketers prepare for the type of traffic that they're going to get and what type of audience they are, they want to capture. This also, we definitely want to include as part of like FAQs and data, like pet rules, breed restrictions, parking. If like just more details that other websites might not include because they're, again, taking for granted that they're not first time movers. So, any input on this, Mike?
Just, obviously this is super useful from a paid media perspective as well. If you're looking at demographic targeting and how to control your messaging, it's definitely helpful to know who is doing the most research. Obviously, you always want to be marketing to every age group, every gender. But if you have, for your property, obviously look at Google Analytics to see what that story is for you. But that's obviously going to have an impact on how you message your advertising, how you write your content. So it's super helpful information.
Awesome. All right, moving on to gender. So we saw 56% of users that visited a multifamily site were females, whereas 43% of those users were males. Now, this matters, so you can know who is actually researching apartments and where most of the leasing demand might come from. And you might want to include more information about like um, like maintenance schedules, or like emphasize like parking information, on-site parking, parking fees, or if it's free, like include FAQs, all of that for both audiences. Again, first-time movers. If you have like lockers for packages, all of that, so they can make a better informed decision as to what amenities and other features the apartment community has. And again, this is great for also paid campaigns as well. And lastly, I mean, this is not a this is like not impressive data that 57% of users search on their phones. As we most people are browsing websites in general from their phones. But it does reiterate the importance of having a mobile responsive site, a mobile first site. In the past we used to, like the industry tended to design websites based on a desktop first, but the practice nowadays is to design the website for mobile first and then expand it to other devices such as tablets and desktops and so on. And also important to have a fast site that can load on mobile, that doesn't take more than 3 seconds to load, that your interstitials, such as pop-up banners and chats, are not blocking the entire screen when the website loads, and that just on a mobile device and just ruins the experience. So just things to consider when designing your website. All right, moving on to AI and search trends. I just want to focus here on just the future of search, on how we're seeing large language models evolve. And large language models are ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, all of those AI tools that we see people use. The most popular one is ChatGPT, but we're also seeing LLMs integrated into search engines with the AI overview. And the AI overview is simply, most of you have already seen this, but it's this little snippet that is generated in the search results whenever you type in a query that's informative, or it's phrased as a question, So, in the search results, you obviously have the sponsored ads at the top, and then you have um, the the AI overview snippet over here, followed by the map pack and other snippets, and then the organic search results. So this has really shifted the way that users engage with the search engine's result pages. But I'll talk about it a little bit more in this presentation. Um, so the first thing is AI adoption is obviously evolving and accelerating. Um, More than one third of the US population uses generative AI in one way or another. And by 2027, it's forecasted that 42% of the US population will be using one LLM or large language model tool. Um, and I mean, I see it every day with family members or friends that like just mention like, oh yeah, I did this with ChatGPT and all that. And whereas in 2020 December 2022, when uh, GPT-3 was dropped, um, there was a lot of fuzz in the internet, but people like around me and family and friends and all that, they still didn't know what that was. But you know, even in WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram, um, Llama and the Meta large language model or AI tool is being used a lot more to generate images or ask questions, and it's already integrated into those social platforms. So it's just interesting to see like more use cases of that.
And just a question in terms of like AI tool adoption, it's still like 80% ChatGPT right now. They have the biggest user base, even though their performance of their models sometimes is behind Grok or behind Perplexity. But in terms of the user base, and when you're looking at like where are these people doing this, it would be predominantly ChatGPT. But obviously, that's going to change over time. But the reason why I mentioned that is because obviously, when we think about search, we don't think about them all equally. We think about Google primarily, and then a far second would be Microsoft, Yahoo. So right now, the Google of AI is definitely ChatGPT in terms of user base. Um,
Yeah, and
Do
we're
you
also
ever?
seeing them. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say, do you guys ever see where the AI overview is inserted above a sponsored or a paid?
I haven't noticed that yet, but I'm sure that they test a lot of different iterations. I've seen them primarily in the place where Andres showed, but also I've seen them at the bottom of the page a couple of times. But most of the time, it's kind of in the same place.
Yeah, the inspiration for that, or the reason why I asked that question, is certainly Mike and I have a lot of history with this on the paid side, knowing that Google's relentlessly testing, their search environment for a lot of different reasons. Of course, the user experience is important to them, but profits, right? That's how they make most of their money.
Yep.
And I don't begrudge them for that whatsoever. But I wonder if AI overviews, kind of like the coveted spots of organic search, were always there for a long time, and this is going way back many years, but there was a time that pay per click was not a thing, and obviously in an environment that gets so much attention and sees so much traffic, it makes sense to think about, are there ways to kind of monetize the interest of this information that's found. And if it's not happening yet, I wonder when it will be that the evolution of search engines, I'm sure Google is already thinking in this direction, is how will they consider that? Will that ever be a factor where they could even think about, hey, well, here's an AR overview, but how do we now figure out a way to even make that something that somebody has to pay to play in? So
I've heard that they're playing with ads inside of AI overviews. Like if you expand them, I think I've seen a couple of those. Google definitely is in a position where they have kind of the innovator's dilemma, where they literally have such an incredible product, which is Google search. It's great for marketers. It's great for them. Organic listings, they will shove to the bottom of the page below all of these things. Obviously, there's an expectation that Google needs to be an AI player, and you're definitely seeing AI cannibalize a lot of space that used to belong to organic and pushing all of that stuff down. But what you don't see them doing is cannibalizing search. So they're going to always be walking that fine line of how can we give people as much of this AI stuff that's beneficial that doesn't eliminate our opportunity to serve ads. Otherwise, they're going to be taking up, I think it's like $50 billion a year and just lighting it on fire. And that's why a lot of people, they've thought of ChatGPT as the Google killer, which definitely isn't yet, but there is certainly encroachment. I mean, some of the estimates that I've heard is that it's as much as like 20% of search that was going to search engines, Google, Bing, Yahoo, are now being conducted on ChatGPT and other LLM platforms. But then the argument is, it's really long tail, and then it causes more search within Google. At least that's what Google is saying now, and I think that's probably true, because a lot of times, if you're looking at product or comparison or stuff, you might have to do 10 different searches. But if you go into ChatGPT or Gemini, you can have them summarize all of this research, but then you're still going to do that research at those individual properties or communities if you're comparing different apartments in a different area. So it creates search in some respects. It takes away from search in others. A place where we're definitely seeing a lot of contraction as a result of AI, where essentially AI, ChatGPT specifically, is stealing traffic, is from large content producers. ILSs, I think, are getting hit very hard by ChatGPT. A lot of websites that would teach you how to do things, that information is being summarized. So the reason why it's so important that Andres showed that only 1% of traffic is going to the websites is ChatGPT and LLMs are eating a lot of traffic. So you're not getting the same value of traffic. Cloudflare mentioned that I think they were doing this Cannes thing, or Cannes Film Festival, and he was talking on their technology summit and basically saying that for every 7 pages or 5 pages that were crawled, you used to get 1 visit. And now for a lot of these large content producers, it's like 17 pages per visit. So the amount of pages crawled to visits given is going down a lot. And there are a lot of people that are very concerned about it, because obviously every business, whether you're a content producer, you need traffic. That's how you monetize the information that you share with search engines. And luckily for us at the local level, we're not seeing that level of cannibalization yet. I'm sure some of that will take place, but definitely, the more people that leverage these tools, the more different traffic patterns will be. But one thing that's interesting, and this is just kind of an anecdote from our own SEO and lead generation, we are starting to get leads from ChatGPT. And it's really annoying because I'm like, oh, like what keyword or blah, 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 blah did you use? And we don't know. I don't have any level of attribution on why we got 3 really great leads from ChatGPT, but I'm very thankful for Andres and all the work that the SEO team does to get us in those places. So it's kind of a weird thing. We don't really talk about impressions as being valuable, but ChatGPT impressions and activity are super valuable. They're just as valuable as visits. So we can't see how many of those people might have seen the results in an LLM for us yet, but we know that when we show up in an LLM, their opinion of us goes up substantially, and they're very impressed. Like, how did you guys show up for this? Because obviously they could go to Google and search a bunch of different agencies as well. But the fact that we're showing up for multifamily, power sports, or automotive agency in LLMs, basically they kind of come to us a lot more warmly, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's great. And that you're not the first person that I've heard say that they're noticing, hey, I got traction or got a lead that's coming clearly through ChatGPT, somebody's ChatGPT experience, which does say a lot about the business and what they're trying to do to make sure they're showing up both in traditional search results, or let's just say Google, but then also in ChatGPT. And it's I think it's just the beginning of kind of figuring out what is maybe triggering some of that, but it's only, I think, going to become more significant in I think mostly in a positive way, because most of the people, although the adoption rates in LLMs, as Andreas shared, continue to rise, there's a massive percentage of those people that just want to learn how to make an action figure themselves in the new image model of ChatGPT, which was literally just destroyed by Nano Banana last week. And just give it a couple weeks and Midjourney is going to be it's like an arms race in so many different areas. And I think one of the reasons why I love that you guys do a podcast is that you have these conversations about things for, in this case, the multifamily community, to just be listening to a conversation full of really good insights and some research that you've done, to then come away with, hey, well, what are we doing? Because you just said something, Mike, that I think is interesting. For many, many years, it was fair to say that an impression, really, it's not really an achievement. It's more of a performance type of metric, maybe vanity. That's kind of a way of like really wanting to chip away at, like, there's no value to that metric, which I think that's changed somewhat. And I don't know where exactly it's going to end. But I think that impressions now, all of a sudden, especially for people that care about their brand, I think impressions now does have more value than it did, say, even 5 years ago, which is all things that I think are interesting to watch in terms of trends and how they end up affecting this world that we're living in, that's producing a lot of zero-click searches as well, right? Everything that Google can put on the page. Some people we just found everything we needed if the Google business profile gets involved as well. So anyway, I digress, but I thought this was a good place for us to have a little bit of dialogue around these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the AI adoption is such a huge topic. I can talk about it for hours. Like, it has so much impact on the way that users use search engines. But essentially, search engines are moving more towards an answer engine rather than displaying search results. So getting to the answer first. And that's how we have to think now of our content and our resources. Like, how do we provide the answer first and then provide a more in-depth answer below? A good example I use is always the recipe sites, where you look for a recipe and you have 1,000 words talking about how your grandma, used this recipe, the history of tomatoes, and then at the end you get the actual recipe. It's so annoying. Play with ads, where now Google is rewarding the answer. Google and other search engines and large language models are rewarding the getting to the answer first, among other things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the big question is, how much traffic do LLMs actually send? Everyone's like, oh, we have to appear in ChatGPT, we have to appear in Perplexity, all of that. Well, actually, in today's world, and this is based on a study from Ahrefs, but what they found is that traffic from ChatGPT and other large language models is actually less than 1% of the total traffic that these websites receive. I'm talking, YouTube, Wikipedia, Forbes, all those sites, like publishers, news publishers, all of that. Less than 1% of the traffic that they receive come from large language models. And even in multifamily, doing our own study, we found that 85% of the traffic come from ChatGPT, from that 1%, but it's still very little traffic. Now, with that said, that traffic is increasing. So obviously we will see a higher rise of, it will be eventually become 1% and then 1.5, etc. But currently, as of 2025 or Q3, this is what we're seeing across the board. So when people say that, oh, I need to show up in a ChatGPT, well, you're not missing out on a bunch of traffic. it's still a good practice to start, getting your website AI ready or LLM ready, but you're not like missing the wave. You're not like Bitcoin in 2017. Like you're missing out on it. So, yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention is the scale of LLMs versus traditional search. Like this is how much traffic the top 100 websites. When I say top 100 websites, I mean like the ones that I previously mentioned: Facebook, YouTube, uh, Wikipedia, Forbes, all of those websites, ESPN, the top 100 websites. They get about 200 billion website visits every month. Whereas Google gets 81 billion website visits, and LLMs, large language models in general, get around 1.3 billion or generated 1.3 billion referral visits as of May 2025. So just wanted to put this into like the scale of going back to the less than 1%. Still, most of the like 100 top 100 websites, include and also Google, they generate more website visits than the actual referral visits that large language models provide. So you still like it's something to consider. The scale of the traffic from these LLMs is still very small. It will continue to increase for sure. Like this, there's no way back. We're at the point of no return. But I just wanted to put it at scale for y'all. Now let's talk about the conversion rates for traffic coming from LLMs versus organic traffic, and this actually comes from real estate traffic. So this two numbers that you see on your screen are based on real estate traffic. So traffic coming from AI tools, they convert at 6.25% versus organic search. So people are putting more trust into search engine. I'm not sorry, AI tools and LLMs answers than what they find in search results. Now, the way that people search in ChatGPT and whatnot is also very different than in Google. In Google, you might visit 10 search results before making a decision. So that's why you might see a lower conversion rate. Whereas for LLM traffic, like you're putting a lot of trust into the answer, and if they include a referral link and you click on it, you already have like that trustworthiness, of like, well, this LLM is trained on all this trillion data points, and this is the best answer that they provided to me. So I'm gonna trust this website. So I think the funnel for LLMs is or traffic funnel from LLMs is a lot shorter than organic search, and that's why we're seeing higher conversion rates. Any thoughts on this, Mike?
No, I mean, it makes sense. I wish I had more visibility on, in our case, like the traffic that comes from LLMs. But like when people see you on an LLM, they're really trusting that system is going to give more correct information than 10 different searches. So a lot of times, again, visibility on LLMs is probably worth more than traffic from a lot of different channels, because you're essentially it's a little bit of a game of persuasion. If you're there with all of these trillions of different data points and this was the answer that I got from ChatGPT, then it must be true. So that totally makes sense that your conversion rates would be much better there.
Awesome. I'm gonna skip this one because it's pretty much the same as like the scale comparison, but just real quickly, the top referral sites from LLMs are YouTube. So if you look for an answer in ChatGPT or Gemini and whatnot, YouTube will get cited a lot, as well as Facebook, Wikipedia, Reddit, GitHub, Canva, etc. So top 50 sites, those are the top referral sources that LLMs, large language models, use. What this also means for the SEO industry is that websites like, local apartment community websites might not get cited as much as these other websites. So it's important that your website is in as many platforms as possible. So you want to have a YouTube channel, you want to have Facebook page, an Instagram page, um, you want to be cited in Reddit, you want to be present in as many websites as possible, so that can build trust. And the more cited your website or your brand is in all these other platforms, the more likely you will appear in these answers. Now, I want to talk about the popularity of Google AI overviews. And as we talked about, this is the AI overview. And also want to talk about, the shift in, search behavior. So as I mentioned earlier, Google is moving from a search engine to an answer engine. So summarizing information rather than presenting search results. And this was very obvious after the Google I/O event in May. However, this still has like very low impact in real estate and multifamily, and also local SEO in general. The reason why is because when you look for apartments in Woodland Hills, for example, you still get served the sponsored ads and then the map pack and ILSs and local apartment community websites, because the AI overview is not popular within local searches. You will see the AI overview, and I'll talk about it more in this presentation, but you will see the AI overview show up more when it's more of a conversational query or search, or an informative query, like what apartments communities have pools in Fremont, or what apartments communities are pet friendly in San Jose, California. Um, those are longer query searches. They're they're looking for an answer rather than a search result, and it also changes the way that people search for, like, the queries themselves. In the past, we tended to search with as fewer words as possible to get the most accurate result. Now, Google, with the AI overview, they're encouraging to use more words to trigger this AI overview. But speaking of the AI overview popularity, in January, it was less than 8% of the search results showed an AI overview. By February, that the number got closer to 8%. In March, there was a core update, and that number jumped to about 14%. And then in April and May, that increased to 20%. Now, this also, I mean, we don't have data from June, July, August yet, but that number has increased to 30 something percent now. So AI overviews are increasing, but for real estate, or at least local searches, that number is still very low. All things, like, considering the most of the impressions, or the volume, the search volume is still short tail, medium tail keywords, fewer than 4 words. Again, apartments in Woodland Hills is just 4 words. So that's still not going to trigger an AI overview. But longer tail keywords or queries, just what are the best 55 plus apartments in Fremont, California. That's more. That's a lot more words, and that's going to trigger an AI overview. Awesome. So, what impact does this have on inorganic clicks? Well, this is more. This has more of an impact again on informational content or queries, but there is a click-through rate reduction of 34%, and this is obvious because AI overviews still appear in the number one spot below ads. So the number one spot in search results in general, the click-through rate is about 32%. So obviously, if the AI overview takes the number one spot, the click-through rate of the following results will be lowered. And what we're also seeing is that impressions are rising because of AI overviews. So people are using Google more and searching more, but they are clicking less because of the AI overview, because they're summarizing all this information for informational queries. But again, for multifamily, we're not seeing a high impact. We're only seeing the impact on blogs, for example. We write a lot of blogs about, best neighborhoods and, points of interest around the apartment communities area. So those get fewer clicks, but they still bring a lot of relevance and they still get cited in the AI overviews. So it's still excellent brand awareness. Moving on to why is SEO still important? Is SEO dead? It's not. 76% of the citations. So these sources here, these are citations or sources of the AI overview. 76% of them are pulled from the top 10 pages. So by top 10 pages, I mean, this is page 1 and then page 10 and so on. Whereas, so it's still important that your website is is still in Google. It's still ranking because it's more likely to get cited in the AI overview. And then also 99% of the 99.5% of the top 10 sources in the AI overview are found in page 1. So again, if you're in page 1 here, you're more likely to appear in the AI overview as sources. So still very important to show up in page 1. Again, as I mentioned, 88% of long tail informational queries trigger AI overviews. Long tail is more than four words, and if it's phrased as a question or if it's phrased as just more conversational style, it will trigger an AI overview. Whereas if you're still doing local searches the old way, which is like apartments in city or pet friendly apartments in city, you still will get a local search result with no AI overview. If you're being cautious or paranoid that AI overview is going to take over local search, don't. Local search is still very relevant and unchanged for the most part. And Google also launched AI mode, which I'm going to pull an example here. So when you look for an apartment, let's say you get the traditional search result, but you can also go into AI mode and it will look something like this, which still shows local map pack listings. So very important to still show up in the map pack. But it also tells you what information your website can have to better satisfy a user's search. So you got your apartment listings here with some price ranges and um, some bedroom type of bedrooms, and then you also have some ILSs here, but also it tells you neighborhoods to consider, and then tips for moving to Dallas. Very important information if you're moving outside of the city. So if you get into the customer's mind, I'm moving to Dallas, I want to see what are the best neighborhoods, and I also want to see, you know, of course, like see what neighborhood is closest to my either school district where I'm gonna, get my kids into school, or employer or whatever, or like transportation options, and then compare that with the best neighborhoods. And then I also want to see like what are the best tips to move into Dallas. So instead of just presenting the best options of these are the best apartments, you also want to consider giving more information to the user that can help them move into that apartment community. We go back to the first time movers that we mentioned earlier. First time movers, they might not know about pet restrictions, about package lockers. They might not know about maintenance schedules, all those things. So if we can provide that with frequently asked questions, we can provide the answers to that with FAQs, or just like linking to a related blog that we have on our site that provides that information. That's gonna make it way easier to the user to make a decision. So um, again, AI mode, um, adoption of this is still very low, but it also provides marketers and SEOs with information that they can include on the site to help the user a lot. All right, quick checklist on answer engine optimization, or GEO, or LLM SEO, whatever you want to call it. I really don't have a preference, but you want to structure your content for AI. You want to make sure that you provide the answer first, and that the information is parsable by the LLM bots. So um, the way that LLMs gather information from the web is they send a bot or a crawler to your site, and then they just crawl your entire site, um, eat up all the content, parse it, and then transform it, summarize it, and then store it. So you want to make sure that all your content and your most important content is on your website. It's that you have internal links, that you have a good structure, but also that you store this content in an HTML format, which is point 3. But you also want to ensure that um, your content is written in a conversational way. This does not mean that my homepage is going to say what are the best apartments in Woodland Hills, but you do want to have FAQs. You want to have an FAQ page, and we have a really good case study on FAQs, on how we implemented an apartment community, and they started getting mentioned in LLMs, and they started getting some referral traffic based on that. So it's really important to have conversational style content on your website, whether it's an FAQ or in your blogs. And lastly, HTML. LLM crawlers are, most of them do not parse JavaScript. They don't render it because it's very expensive. It's like 10 times more expensive than parsing HTML code. So anything like schema, anything like just your core content, you want to have it in your HTML rather than in a script, JavaScript, and all that, because LLMs are not going to parse it. Therefore, they won't be able to absorb that information. Um, this includes School Tag Manager because that's a script. This includes like the interactive um, interactive floor plan pages that they show up um, this floor plan that you can interact with. You can zoom into the units and show the availability, but it's a script. It's not in HTML, so it might not LLMs might not be able to parse it. Again, shifting from targeting keywords to answering questions. So going back to the AI mode example, answering those questions like what are the best neighborhoods in my city? What are like the best school districts or the best schools in my city? If your target audience are families, or what are the best transportation options near my neighborhood, etc. All of these questions and questions towards first-time movers are going to help you capture more of that audience and appear in LLMs, but also retain and convert better. You can also get ideas from the people also ask snippet. You can use FAQ schema in your FAQ pages, um, and just get more visibility that way. Again, going back to FAQ schema, adding the local business schema, organization, FAQ page schema. Schema is just a small piece of code that it's invisible to the user. It's non-invasive, and all it does, it gives the search engines and large language models more information about your business. So if I look for, I add this snippet to my site, and it tells Google or other search engines and LLM bots or crawlers, the description about the website, what's the main URL, their logo, number of bedrooms, what amenities they have, what is their address, what are the areas, service areas, and entity, like city entity, schedule, etc. Without the and this is all in JSON format, which is very cheaper than HTML for crawlers to parse. So they prefer this format, and and you're presenting all of this data in this way without the crawler having to visit other pages. Like if you put this in the homepage, you're essentially telling all LLMs exactly what your website is about. And you can also include FAQs as well in this format, and provide more answers to these crawlers. And lastly, the other thing that we talked about was brand mentions. So brand mentions are very important. SEO was focused on your website for the most part, but you want to get mentioned in as many platforms as possible. That includes press releases, local citation sites, directories, ILSs, social media sites, and of course, doing link outreach, building backlinks in local sites or blogs, or um, expert commentaries, all of that. You want to appear in as many sites as possible, because that way, when LLMs scrape the web, if your brand is mentioned in all these platforms, they'll be more likely to cite you in answers, rather than the apartment community next door that only has their website and a Facebook profile, and that's it. So very, very important. Lastly, you want to measure AI impact. So whatever, if you want to see how much traffic you're getting from LLMs, you can search this in GA4, Google Analytics 4. You can create a custom channel grouping, so you can see all LLM traffic. I included a small tutorial by Dana DiTomaso in the next slide. But you can also monitor AI mentions with tools such as Profound, Ahrefs, SEMrush, they also have a tool for this. This is how you can set up a custom channel group. I included a source at the bottom. And this is a snapshot of how Profound looks like, tracking all of your brand mentions in LLM answers. Still testing this one because it's a little bit like it's not the same as tracking keywords in Google, but it's I take it with a grain of salt, and it gives you a good snapshot of what your visibility might be in this AI tools, and that's it.
Awesome, dude. Great work.
Nice. A lot of great info in there. Thanks, Andres. There's a couple questions. I'll just give you a couple just so we don't have to make it a mega episode. But you guys went through a lot of time to amass 800 plus multifamily websites and all of the information that you kind of came out with. Is there something that maybe you didn't even expect that kind of stood out as you guys analyzed across all these multifamily sites? Is there something that stood out within some of the benchmarks or data that you maybe weren't expecting?
Maybe the percentage of traffic that goes to the website for me. I was hoping it'd be a little bit more generous than 1%, but that would probably, we've been talking about zero-click search for such a long time. So it wasn't totally surprising. I was expecting it to maybe be a little more.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys, I think I know the answer to this because I feel this way, but I'm curious if you do as well. Feel like we're literally in the middle of a massive revelation. Like it's begun, so we're feeling it, but it feels maybe revolution is even a better word for it. I don't think, at least in my experience, there's ever been anything that has been as, the word itself, disruption, has become so overutilized in business and companies that want to be disruptors who are not very disruptive at all. But this is a massive shift that isn't just something that, as a company trying to be disruptive in an industry. This is a foundational piece of how people market their businesses, advertise their businesses, that everyone's kind of living through the same thing, which is search change. Where is the traffic? How much of it? And you guys just laid out a lot of data points that I think are very important for people in multifamily and many other verticals to make sure that they are following, so that they don't listen to the wrong voices, because there's always a group of people who are leading oftentimes in the wrong direction for the wrong reasons. And it's usually absent of real metrics and data and research to know really what's happening. And we're having to do all of this while the plane is already, in flight, all of these things. And I don't know if you guys feel that way. Does it, I feel like the plane is in the air and we're trying to figure out all of these calculations to figure out how to make it the best it possibly can, and also so it doesn't crash, I guess, in some way. But
yeah, I definitely think that, obviously, we don't see the impact for local businesses yet, but I think that's going to change. I think AI is going to kind of have an integration with everything, but I also don't think the publishers know what they're doing yet. I don't think that I think it's a very iterative approach where you see Google will roll something out, pull it back. So it's definitely an interesting situation, but we are definitely moving away from just a Google only world to multiple sources of information. And for, a lot of people, they would just focus on Google solely as the source of traffic. And you probably can keep doing that for a year or so more. But there definitely needs to be an emphasis for any business to start looking for all the other places where they could show up and where they could answer questions and create visibility for their businesses. I definitely am seeing a major collapse of, again, these larger informational websites or FCP sites, ILSs like apartments.com. you're going to see traffic collapse for all of those places because essentially Google can summarize the information that apartments.com gave you in comparing apartments. So a lot of those types of websites are directly losing market share, but right now we are not seeing that at the local business level, which is great. But I'm sure there will be some changes to that. SEO, every year they've been predicting that it's dead for the last 22 years. So it's not happening. It just has to change. SEO is always changing. And here at Premier, we're evolving our product multiple times a year and looking at what's working. I think it's, I don't know if I don't know how the internet is going to work or the ecosystem is going to work if no traffic is returned. So I do expect that to change. It's in some way, shape, or form. But you never know. But at the end of the day, people are going to use a variety of tools to get the information that they need to make a purchase decision, a move, whatever. And from our point of view, we want to obviously emphasize where most of that traffic is coming from, which is currently Google, while being very clear-eyed about, hey, it's not just going to be Google, and we want to start moving in that direction now. Because, to the point of what Andres shared earlier, websites that are doing better in organic search do better in LLMs. So if you're optimizing for traditional SEO, you're going to show up more in LLMs. And there are a lot of things that have just been kind of SEO best practices like schema, which Google has kind of shed doubt on like how impactful it actually is, but we actually see it being impactful. So kind of making sure that you're executing that full checklist of SEO health and not leaving things unchecked, even if they maybe previously didn't have a huge impact, might be something that will be beneficial for LLMs in the future. And Andres, I'm curious for your answer there as well.
I agree with everything you said. This AI is, a trend that you can't stop. And the way that search is shifting, we have to adapt to it. I don't think SEO is dead either. I've seen worse things. So I think that we just need to adapt, and those who don't adapt will be left behind. And the way that you adapt is just by looking at search behavior. How are LLMs displaying information? What information are they displaying? And how can we better serve our users? This means more content. This means more links, more presence in other platforms, and some techniques that didn't work in 2022 or 2020 are now coming back because of this shift in search. So I'm very for me, I'm very excited. I love testing and all these things. I'm very iterative, so I'm looking forward to these massive changes that are coming.
Yeah, so much going on. Last thing I want to ask you guys, and then we'll close it down, is kind of relative to measuring AI impact. Tracking the AI-driven referrals and mentions, as you were talking about, Andreas, is still new for just about everybody. How would you say, and either or both of you guys can share your thoughts on this, but how could multifamily marketers be setting up maybe the right analytics or some sort of reporting capture method, or to measure their SEO performance currently and as we go forward with this AI era? Or what would be a recommendation that you would make?
I would say don't panic. And the other one is just get your website, adopt these very, they may seem like very basic techniques of like providing the answer first and or everything else on the site. Like, I mean everything else like, parse, getting your content in HTML format, answer conversational style questions and structured content for AIs, like very basic things, but they do have a big impact on on showing up in large language models. So that will like bulletproof your site and your apartment community for what's coming. So that would be my tip.
And you recommend using Profound?
Yeah, just because like Ahrefs and SEMrush are very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a SEMrush Profound alternative, go with Ahrefs. But yeah, Profound is a new tool. It's it measures the brand visibility for different queries in the LLM tools. The only uncertainty that I have is like the only question mark is like I don't know how they do it. Whereas with position tracking tools, keyword tracking tools, it's very like you can even set one up yourself, but there's still not a lot of visibility on how they do it or like what data they're basing it on. There's still not like any analytics from ChatGPT or anything like that that we can get. So we just have to rely on these tools to give us like the ballpark figure. So not 100% accurate, I would say, but it does give you good. It does give you some good insights.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, gentlemen, that wraps up today's Pomcast. Huge thanks, Andreas, for walking us through. Mike, for giving us some color commentary as well on the state of SEO and multifamily. It's almost difficult to actually do a state of SEO at any one point in time, especially in the AI era, because everything is changing so fast. So to the audience listening and or viewing, I highly recommend that you just keep your eye on what Premier Online Marketing is talking about in the marketplace. You can certainly learn a lot more about them by just going to premieronlinemarketing.com. You should also be following Andres and Mike and Claire and everybody over there on their LinkedIn profiles. So make sure you go and look up Premier Online Marketing on LinkedIn. Go and look at all the people that work there and follow them so you can learn more, because they're always helping people understand really what's next in search and digital marketing, and especially industry specific, multifamily, automotive, power sports, and beyond. If you found value in this conversation, well, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your network. And if you're not already following these guys in all these places, again, please do that. Like and subscribe if you're viewing the content on YouTube. I can't thank these guys enough for sharing the insights, giving the resources that they do to help people stay ahead of the curve. Thanks for listening, and we will see you all soon on the next episode of the podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.